Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something I think resonates with a lot of us. Understanding your boss, specifically their leadership style.
Yeah, and we've been looking at this really interesting source, 115.pdf. It's got this funny but actually quite insightful take on decoding boss behavior.
It really does.
Uh,
So, our mission today,
well, we want to give you some tools, some frameworks, really, ways you can silently figure out your boss's style without, staging a workplace drama.
or updating your LinkedIn mid-meeting. We've all been tempted.
Uh-huh.
But seriously, think about those questions the source raises. Like, why does that open door policy sometimes feel more like a monologue?
Right. Or how can you spot those leadership flaws, but discreetly, without painting a target on your back?
Exactly. And micromanagement. Is there a safe way to even think about it? Mentally reframe it, maybe.
And that's what we'll get into. The source talks about mastering leadership archetypes, reading nonverbal cues, especially when maybe your idea isn't landing.
Oh, that awkward silence.
Yeah, that one. And deciphering corporate speak. Like, let's take this offline. What does that really mean?
Okay, let's dive in. The source starts with something it calls the hierarchy of bad bosses. Intriguing title.
It is. And type 1 is described as the thought leader who has never had a thought.
Okay, tell me more. What does that look like?
Well, think buzzwords. Lots of buzzwords. Disrupt the paradigm, blue sky thinking. You know the type.
I think I do.
The source suggests the translation is often someone who's really good at absorbing and repeating what they've just read in, say, the Harvard Business Review.
Ah, so it sounds profound, but it's borrowed profundity.
Kind of, yeah. It might stem from this pressure to constantly seem innovative. So the survival tip,
What is it?
when they hit you with a big provocative idea, just make a mental note. Okay, probably read this somewhere recently. Needs time to process.
That's actually really practical. Manage your own expectations. Have you seen that happen? Where a boss suddenly champions something that sounds suspiciously like last month's business headline?
Oh, definitely. It happens. Now, moving down the hierarchy, we get type 2, the micromanager who misses the big picture.
The classic. Can you format this exactly like last time, but also make it fresh?
Exactly. That obsessive focus on tiny details. The source posits that this might come from a place of lacking real power or control over the bigger stuff.
So they focus on what they can control, like font sizes.
Precisely. It's about exerting influence where they feel they can. And the survival tip here is, well, a bit sneaky.
Go on.
Include deliberate but minor errors in your first drafts.
Seriously, why?
So they have something to find, something to fix. It makes them feel useful, satisfies that need to control, but hopefully keeps them away from the actual substance of your work.
Wow, that's kind of brilliant. In a slightly dark way, channeling their energy.
You could say that it's about understanding the underlying need, that need for agency, and giving it an outlet.
Okay, who's next on this ladder?
Type 3, the chaotic mentor.
Oh boy, that sounds stressful.
It often is. Their style is juggling loads of urgent things at once, often contradicting themselves.
Like drop everything, do this. No, wait, do this other urgent thing. Hang on, why isn't the first thing done yet?
You've got it. The translation, according to the source, they're probably just feeling really overwhelmed themselves.
Ah, so it's not necessarily about you, it's about their own chaos spilling over.
Exactly. It's an outward sign of their internal state. And the survival tip is actually quite clever.
Okay.
Forward their own emails back to them gently with a per your last note.
Oh, I like that. Like holding up a mirror to their own directives.
Ah,
Helps them track, helps you track.
it brings a bit of order, subtly. Now, there was also a listener submission mentioned.
Right, the boss who's brainstorming turned into divorce complaints,
Yeah.
leading the listener to just avoid them.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It doesn't fit neatly into these three types, does it?
Not perfectly.
It has elements of the chaotic mentor, the lack of focus, maybe being overwhelmed, but it also brings in this whole other dimension of completely inappropriate boundary crossing.
Emotional dumping, basically.
Right. Maybe it's a type 4.
Yeah.
The emotionally unregulated bosses, the avoidance behavior from the listener makes total sense there. Self-preservation.
Okay, so we have these archetypes. Now, the source talks about the art of subtle judgment. How do we actually assess these things without, getting fired?
Good question. It offers some very nuanced techniques. First up, the strategic pause.
Strategic pause.
Yeah. So your boss gives a directive that makes your internal alarms go off. Instead of instantly replying, you wait just a beat, maybe two longer than feels totally natural. Then you respond with a slow, considered, Interesting.
I love that. It's not confrontational, but it signals something.
Skepticism, thoughtfulness.
Exactly. It creates space. It implies you're thinking critically without saying a critical word. Buys you a second, too.
Okay, what's next in the subtle toolkit? The corporate kabuki. This is about recognizing that what's said isn't always what's meant.
Ah, the disconnect. Like when they say, I see where you're coming from.
And the internal translation is often, I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, but let's move on.
Right. They're performing agreement, but it doesn't mean they actually agree or even understand.
Recognizing that performance, that kabuki, means you look for confirmation in their actions, not just their words. Don't take the verbal nod as gospel.
Makes sense. Then there's the feedback loophole. What's that?
This is when feedback comes disguised as a seemingly innocent question, like, have you considered doing the most obvious thing possible?
Which really means...
You seem to be missing something fundamental here. It's a passive way to deliver criticism.
Got it. So understanding that helps you address the real concern, not just the surface question.
Precisely. And there's a pro tip related to this, using the phrase, let me rephrase that.
How does that help?
Well, if your boss's instructions are unclear, you can use it to clarify your understanding.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me rephrase that. What you're asking for is X, Y, and Z. It ensures you're on the same page, and it might even subtly help them clarify their own thinking.
Nice. The gentle steering mechanism. Okay, but what about when it's not just quirks? What if the boss is just plain wrong about something, factually incorrect, or pushing a really bad idea?
Ah, yes. The source offers some emergency phrases for those moments. Lifesavers, potentially.
Okay, let's hear them. Emergency phrase number 1.
The diplomatic redirect. Your boss states something incorrect. You respond, okay, so what I'm hearing is, and then you articulate the correct information framed as your understanding of their point.
Ooh, clever. So you're correcting them without directly saying you're wrong. You're reframing it politely.
Exactly. It avoids making them defensive. Second phrase, the data dodge.
Data nudge.
They're pushing an idea you think is flawed. You say enthusiastically, I'd love to A/B test that.
Huh? Brilliant. Because it implies the idea might fail the test. It introduces the need for proof.
Right. It shifts the focus to evidence and results, subtly questioning the assumption without direct opposition.
Love it. And the third one?
The concerned ally. This is for when a decision seems not just wrong, but potentially damaging. You ask, perhaps furrowing your brow slightly, how do we think insert name of their boss or a senior exec would feel about this approach?
Ah, so you frame your worry as concern for how it looks higher up. Protecting them, supposedly.
It shifts the perspective. It's not you disagreeing, it's you flagging a potential issue with wider perception or strategy. Very useful.
These are great. The source also had that listener hack, didn't it? The Excel log.
Oh yeah, the dumb idea log. Keeping a private record of predictable failures. The example was a tab called Reorgs that solved nothing.
Sadly relatable for many, I suspect. That sounds cynical, but maybe cathartic.
Yeah.
And potentially useful for pattern recognition.
It could be validation, if nothing else. So to wrap this section up and give you, the listener, something concrete to do, the source proposes a listener challenge, Bad Boss Bingo.
Bad boss bingo. Okay, I'm in. What's the mission?
For the next week, actively observe your boss using these ideas we've discussed. Be an anthropologist in your own office.
Okay, anthropologist hat on. What are the bingo squares?
3 specific actions. First, spot a leadership cliche like, we need to do more with less.
Which the source hilariously translates as, we're basically bankrupt but won't admit it?
Something like that. Second action, practice your best listening face.
Ah, yes. The attentive nodding while mentally drafting your resignation letter, or that Glassdoor review.
We've all been there. And third, try to describe your boss's style using just 3 emojis.
Emojis. Okay. The example was a laughing face, a downward chart, and a magnifying glass.
Right. For a boss who ignores hours but demands results, maybe slacks off but questions you leaving on time. #leadership jokes, as they tagged it.
That's quite creative. It forces you to distill the essence.
So the overall encouragement is to approach these interactions with a new lens. Think of yourself as maybe an underpaid organizational psychologist.
I like that framing. Observing, analyzing, understanding the dynamics.
And consider this. How can understanding these common, sometimes frustrating patterns actually empower you?
Even if the boss doesn't change.
Exactly. Even if they stay exactly the same, how can your understanding help you navigate the situation more effectively? Manage your own reactions, protect your work, maybe even find ways to gently influence things. It shifts some power back to you.
That's a really empowering final thought. It's not just about complaining, it's about strategizing.
Precisely. And speaking of workplace strategies,
Yeah.
our next deep dive,
Yes, what's up next?
we'll be exploring another essential skill: how to pretend you're in a meeting when you're actually applying to other jobs.
Okay, now that sounds like required listening for many. Until then, happy boss watching.